Welcome to problems 945 to 952 in the CCG review and preview. 945 says, Koi is inflating a spherical balloon for her brother's birthday party. She has used 3 full breaths so far, and her balloon is only half the width she needs. Assuming that she puts the same amount of air into the balloon with each breath, how many more breaths does she need to finish the task? Explain how you know. Well, if she needs the balloon to increase half, if she has her balloon and it's only increased half the width she wants, she needs the width to double. And if we're talking about the spherical balloon, we are talking about the volume or the air within the balloon. And I know that volume, from what we've learned previously, is cubed. So if we know it's going to double, and we know we're talking about volume, we know that the volume will increase by a factor of 8. So if she has made or used 3 full breaths, and this is going to increase by a factor of 8, because our zoom factor would be 2, we're going to cube it because it's volume. It means that the balloon would require 24 breaths to blow it up. So since she's already used 3 of those breaths, she needs an additional 21 more breaths to blow up the balloon. 9-46 says, draw a cylinder on your paper. Assume the radius of the cylinder is 6 inches and the height is 9 inches. So the height is 9 inches, the radius is 6 inches. What is the surface area of the cylinder? What is the volume? So when we talked about surface area, we talked about the outside of our figure. So if you think of wrapping paper, what would cover the outside of our figure? So in order to figure that out, we need to find the circumference of our circle in order to know the distance around or the length of our rectangle of our net. So circumference is equal to 2 pi times the radius. So if we have 2 pi times 6, we would get a circumference of 12 pi. We also need to know the area of our circle because we have a base and a top that we need to determine. So the area is equal to pi r squared. So if we have pi times 6 squared, we have an area of 36 pi. So knowing that we have 2 bases, we need to multiply 2 times that area of that base. And then we need to add that to the area of our rectangle, which we know is 9 inches tall. So we found the circumference, so we know this measurement or the length of our rectangle is 12 pi. So if we multiply our length by our width, we get 72 pi plus 108 pi gives us a surface area equal to 180 pi inches squared, so that is about, if we type that in using our pi button, 565.5 inches square. Then looking at the volume of our shape, or how much can fill up our entire cylinder, we would take our area. So our volume would be our area of 36 pi. We need to multiply that by our height of 9. So our volume would equal 324 pi, which is approximately 1,017.9 inches cubed. Problem 947, while Katrina was practicing her first figure skating, she wondered how far she had traveled. She was skating a figure 8, which means she started between two circles and then traveled the boundary of each circle, completing the shape of a sideways 8. If both circles have the radius of 5 feet, how far does she travel when skating one figure 8? So if both circles, if we want to know the distance around one of these circles, we can find the circumference, which is 2 pi r. We know the radius is 5, so we get a circumference of 10 pi. We know that we have not one, but two circles, so we need to multiply that by 2. So we get a total distance of 20 pi, which is approximately 62.8 feet. 9-48 says, for each triangle below, solve for x if possible. If no solution is possible, explain why. So looking at question A, I know that a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So if I can find my missing angle by doing 180 minus 80 minus 27, which gives me an angle measurement of 73 degrees. I know that 10 is directly across from 73 degrees, so I can set up a proportion. 80 is directly across from x. So we know that this is the law of sine, so it's actually the sine of 73 and the sine of 80. So we do 10 times the sine of 80 degrees is equal to x times the sine of 73 degrees. When we divide by the sine of 73, because it's the inverse of multiplication, we get that x is approximately 10.3. Looking at question B, we are dealing with a right triangle. In accordance to that right triangle, this is my opposite leg. This is my hypotenuse. So sine deals with opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm looking for the sine of angle x. It's equal to my opposite side over my hypotenuse. I'm looking for the angle. So the inverse of sine is inverse sine of 8 over my hypotenuse, which is 6, will give me that degree. When you type that into your calculator, make sure you use your inverse sine button, and then make sure you look back and see if that makes sense. When you type this into your calculator, you get an error message on the domain, error of the domain. So that should be a red flag to go back and look at your actual triangle. So when we look at a right triangle, the side opposite of the hypotenuse always has to be the largest side. And we notice that 8 is actually larger than 6. So this is not possible, and that is your reason that the hypotenuse has to be the longest side of a right triangle. Looking at letter C, we have a triangle and we have a side of x. We have a length that is 6, a length that is 5, and they told us that one of the angles is 30 degrees. Knowing that this angle is 30 and this angle is 90, I could say that this entire angle is 60, but that might not help me out too much. But I also know that opposite over adjacent is tangent, so if I take the tangent of 30 degrees and set it equal to 6 over x, if I'm looking for the entire side, I use my inverse, so I multiply by x, so x times the tangent of 30 is equal to 6. Divide by the tangent of 30. I get x is equal to 10.39. If I'm looking for this little piece, I can take 10.39, subtract my 5 from it, and get 5.39. Then to find x, I could do 6 squared plus 5.39 squared equals x squared because it's a right triangle. So 36 plus 29.05 equals x squared, which is, when we add these two together, we get 65.05 equals x squared. And when we take the square root of both sides, we get 8.07 is equal to x. Remember, there are multiple ways to solve these problems on most occasions. So if you thought of something different and got the same answer that I did, it is very possible. Question 9-49 says the map plan for a three-dimensional solid is shown below. On your paper, draw the front, right, and top views of this solid. So you want to pay attention when you're drawing your front view that you are looking at the correct mark. I know that I have 3 blocks on the bottom of my shape. I have 3 blocks on the second level of my shape as well. I have 2 blocks on the left-hand side, and with this 4 in the middle, I have 1 more additional block on top. When I'm looking at my right view, I can see that I have 3 blocks along the lower level. I have 3 blocks across the second level, as well as the third level. And I have 1 block again in the center. And looking at my top-down view, I have a 0 on this corner and this corner. So my map plan would be a 3x3 square, but the only things that have blocks are the shaded areas. Find the volume and the surface area of the solid. So the volume, if we can envision, is all of the cubes stacked on top of one another. So you can do that a couple different ways. One of the ways you can do that is simply counting up how many cubes you have on your map plan, which is 16 cubic units would be our volume. The surface area, we want to know our dimensions, or the outsides of all of our cubes. So we could count all of the sides on our front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Multiply that by 2 because we have a front and a back to our shape. So our front would be 9 times 2. Our right shape would be 10 times 2. Which is the same as our left side, and then our top and our bottom would be 7 times 2, which would give us a surface area of 52 square units. 9-50, the graph of the inequality y is greater than 2x minus 3 is shown below. On graph paper, graph the inequality. Y is less than or equal to 2x minus 3. So the difference is in our inequality symbol. We can see that one of them is or equal to, and it is also one of them is greater than, and one of them is less than. So this symbol right here, or equal to, would make our line a solid line. And then if we want the values that are less than that, it should be shaded to the right. 9-51, an international charity builds home for disasters victims. Often the materials are donated. The charity recently built 45 homes. 20% used granite for kitchen countertops, while the rest used porcelain tile. 15 of the homes used red oak for the wooden kitchen floors, 20 used white oak, and 10 used maple. If a disaster victim is randomly assigned to a home, what is the probability in percent of getting an oak floor with granite countertops? So in this scenario, we can draw a model. So the two choices for the countertops were granite and tile. And the three different choices for the flooring were red oak, white oak, and maple. So when we talk about 20% used granite, we know we have a total of 45 homes. So 20% of 45 is 9. So 9 out of 45 of the homes had granite countertops, which mean the other had porcelain. So 36 out of the 45 had tile. When we look at the floor, 15 of the homes used red oak, so 15 out of 45 used red oak. 20 out of 45 used white oak, and 10 out of 45 used maple. So we want to reduce all of those. So 9 out of 45 reduces to 1/5. 36 out of 45 is 4/5. 15 out of 45 reduces to 3/9. 20 out of 45 is 4/9. And 10 out of 45 is 2/9. We then can use the area model and multiply the length times the width to see what the probability of choosing granite and red oak would be. So granite and red oak, when we multiply, 3 times 1 we get 3, 5 times 9 is 45. When we multiply white oak and granite, 4 times 1 is 4, so we're using 4/9 and 1/5. 9 times 5 is 45. This should have been a 5, excuse me. So then in the question it asked us what the probability in percent of getting an oak floor with a granite countertop would be. Using the area model, we then would have to add our granite and oak floors, because there was 2 different kinds of oak floors. So we have 3 out of 45 plus 4 out of 45, which would give us 7/45, which is approximately a 15.6% chance of getting granite countertops with oak floors. 9-52 is a multiple choice question. The point A, -2, 5, is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. What are the new coordinates of point A? So if we find that plot on our coordinate plane, we have point A. If we rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, that would move our point A to -5, -2. So we would say D. If you use the Desmos tool online, this little green arrow you could place in the proper location where we placed A, and then move that to C. It in fact is at -5, -2.